but we're going to be talking about the neuroscience of the invulnerability of the Berserker or the martial theory states. Keep in mind, these are the same neurological mechanisms of dissociative states, of meditative states, and psychosis. They're basically using the same neurological mechanism, just in varying degrees of intensity and long-term lasting damage. What we have to understand, firstly, is that this is a survival process used by almost every single animal. When an animal is hunted down, it enters into a dissociative shock state. This is so that it's not feeling the pain and gives it the best chance of survival. Mostly, it's probably going to be killed. In the small chance that the predator is driven off or distracted for some reason, the prey has an opportunity to recover from the shock. Because the dissociative shock alone can kill the prey, it can send too much adrenaline to the heart to stop it from beating and cut off oxygen and blood flow. In order to recover from the shock, the prey has to shake it off. It has to somatically reassociate. The body has to physically be told to stop its suspended animation. At the same time, the predator is going into its own sort of trance state. It can be just as dangerous for the predator because the prey may be in a pack, it may have strong ramming, or can gouge it with horns, or can kick. And if the predator is wounded, it needs to be able to ignore the pain and continue its hunt. The predator and prey are both taking advantage of the same neurological process. In colloquial terms, this is the idea of mind over matter. It's the same reason why if a toddler is crying, you wave something to distract them. It puts their attention onto something else. In order for pain to be perceived, two kinds of signals have to be integrated in the brain. The first is the nociceptive signals. These are the ones that tell you the level and location of the pain, right? Usually like a physical wound or an injury. That nociceptive signal will be sent to the thalamus where the information is processed. From the thalamus, that information is sent to somatosensory cortices. This is where the information of pain is starting to be perceived. And then it's sent to the limbic system. In the limbic system, it adds the dimension of memory-based emotional association. It tells you the meaning of the pain, usually acquired from past experiences. The part of the brain that links the somatosensory information, the pain, to the limbic system where it becomes consciously perceived is the same part of the brain where visual signals have access to. This means that the nociceptive signals and the visual signals are competing for access to conscious perception. The visual signals take precedence over the nociceptive signals. They get access first, essentially. Or rather, they can interfere and take up that space. Basically, this means that dissociation has analgesic or pain-relieving effects. But it actually goes one step further than just ignoring pain. And this is where we'll talk about the Berserker invulnerability. When you anticipate being touched or wounded in a certain part of your body, blood flow is increased to that point. However, if you take that same point of stimulation and you're in a state of no mind consciousness or dissociation, blood flow is actually decreased. This is because there's an increase of blood flow to the neurons in the visual cortices and a decrease in blood flow to the neurons of the somatosensory cortices. Basically, the body isn't able to communicate that there is an injury and that communication is actually being used elsewhere. So prior to a battle or the night before, they go through this routine or ritual of inducing this dissociative psychosis or the battle frenzy or the controlled zone, whether through music or meditation or sword dance or battle trance. So when the battle begins and you're being cut and wounded in many different places, you're actually going to be bleeding less. For minor and shallow cuts, the blood may even congeal before it actually starts to bleed, which would appear that you're healing faster than you're being wounded. So funnily enough, Hollywood actually gets two things right in like combat movies. The first is the hero making the last stand where they get wounded and they keep fighting and they get wounded again. And it's usually all mortal wounds. And they're able to keep fighting until either they finally get cut down or they're able to finish off the person that initially wounded them. In the right state of focus, you will reduce the blood flow to different wounds, and so you could push on further than what would seem normally possible. The other part that they get right is the duels, where the two people move to strike, and the one that gets hit takes a moment and doesn't realize he got hit until he looks down and notices that he got cut, and then he starts bleeding and dies. Obviously, it's a bit over-dramatized, but if you're in the right state of focus and dissociated enough and you get cut, it may take a few extra moments for that blood to start flowing and before you notice that you even got cut. And if there's less blood flow to like an internal organ, you will actually survive a little bit longer until the blood flow starts going. So that's why sometimes they take a few steps before they realize what happened and then they keel over. There's another part of this which seems paradoxical, and that is focusing on the pain can actually propel the adrenaline and dissociative state further. In the movies or the fantasy world, it's the Berserker that actually gains more strength the more they are wounded. That instead of being invulnerable, they actually gain more power when they are attacked more. In this scenario, you are bleeding more and therefore reducing the time you have to survive, but you're increasing your adrenaline and your focus. But to bring things back to more relevant day-to-day experiences in our lives, we have these varying levels of distraction and dissociation. If you have a very labor-intensive, boring, or uncomfortable job, you may distract yourself. And after this, when you get home, you need to have a period of winding down. This is the idea of reassociating, of somatically re-entering your body. Basically getting the regular sensory nerves in your body working again. And the same goes for extreme states of trauma, of psychosis, and dissociation. It doesn't really matter what the cause, the diagnosis, or the situation is. Afterwards, the way you recover is the same. And this is the moving or shaking back into your body process. So now I'll spend the rest of the video talking about how to recover from the dissociative and psychosis or berserker states. Whether it's the more micro dissociations of day-to-day life to the long-term trauma, PTSD, and psychosis. For this, we'll go back to what would happen after a typical battle. Usually, you go back home and you throw a feast. This is a completely necessary event. You need to complete the cycle or the circuitry of these nerves. So singing, dancing, just talking to people, being sociable, physical touch, eating, drinking, and especially in very high stress, intense, or dangerous situations, you are numb to so many things that all of these sensations are going to be heightened. The colors, the touch, the taste, the smells, everything is going to be heightened because you didn't feel anything for so long. And that reusing of somatosensory signals is how you stop the dissociative or meditative process. Some people, though, after these situations, actually want a high-stress event, like they'll brawl or just do something really intensive. The difference in this case is that you want to feel it. You want to be experiencing the stress and the physical pain and all the stimulation. So different people have different approaches and what they may need based off of the level of intensity and the situation they were in. The main catalyst for this reassociation, this reanimation from a state of suspended animation, has been alcohol since the beginning of civilization. Alcohol is a medicine. It's a psychopharmacological substance. It's a drug. Some of the benefits are increasing that sociability of making you want to go out and hang out with people. It helps to form community, which is what you need after these dissociative, intense states. And I can talk about this more if you guys want, but in today's world, we're abusing that. It's no longer seen as a medicine, it's seen as a recreation. It's like any prescription drug. If you're using it when you no longer need to, you're going to run into problems. Or if you're overusing it to stop the problem, you're also running into issues. And alcohol is like that. It's the medicine that we built civilization around. And it's because after the day's toil and labor, it helped you relax to get back into your body. It also has the benefit of numbing pain so that you're not just reassociating into a body full of pain and aches and wounds. In today's world, it's being used as a crutch. It's being used to dissociate. It's the difference between coming home from work and drinking with your buddies and drinking before work in order to get through the day. But that's it for this video, so thanks for watching.